Guys, I just want to make this video and talk about some things about these ROI dApps. I don't know. I get a lot of comments. I get a lot of people, in um, Telegram groups and blah blah blah, that get burned so bad on these things. They basically, it's interesting. These names, they're FOMO, so people are, afraid of missing out, and so the problem with that is they look at these things and they see the stake balance and they're like, woohoo, if I wait 28 days, I can get 3,000% return. Um, they don't understand. These are not guaranteed. They're not like, it's not like some other investment where this, might change the variable, it might change a little bit. Um, in this case, it would only go up. But they don't understand how these things work. And then what happens is, they dump everything into here, 28 days. And of course, Fantom Fomo, like 3 hours past the first lockups on plan 4, the whole thing crashes and dies and it's all gone. And everybody else that, dumped in after those 3 hours on the first day has lost everything. They lost everything they put into this. And so that, this is how these things work. These are straight Ponzi-nomics. There's no investment on the back end. Whatever you put into it, it goes into a big pool and everybody gets paid out in the order that people put in. It's not like, this is super high risk. These are not like, safe investments whatsoever. If you're looking at on the risk scale of investments, this is probably like the very top. It's the next step below going to a casino and gambling. So, but there's a strategy to this. There's a way you can, be quote unquote safe. There's always going to be risk in these. There's always going to be, the chance that you lose everything. And the longer you stake for and the later you get in, the higher that risk gets. And as these big whales and stuff get together, there's lots of controversy around the FOMO dApps and the stake dApps, and are there groups of whales behind that they're dumping in? There probably are, and the key to that is beating them. You beat them to the dApp, and you're gonna win. And if you don't touch it. Don't just dump in and see all these numbers on the front end. They don't mean anything. Don't believe anything you read on the front of these things. Do the research, dig into the back of this thing, and figure out if there's a bunch of people in front of you that have already dumped in, and are they giant amounts or not. And if they are, just wait. There'll be another dApp that comes around in a few days. It'll be okay. So the key is, find out when they're going to launch. And I try to post as many as I can that are, basically people ask me, hey, how do you find out about these? And when I first began my channel, I really had to kind of dig for them. But now, fortunately, because I've got, a bit of a base going here, these dApps come to me and say, hey, we're going to launch this thing in a few days. We're waiting for our audit. Can you do a video? So it's great because then I can find out when these things are going to launch before the audit's even released, so we know what's going to happen. And I'm going to be posting those as much as I can. I did have one video that I posted a while ago. Hey, should I take payment from these guys because they keep on offering to pay me for these things? And I had some comments say, yeah, just take their money. You don't owe them anything. So I did with one dApp, and it's just a total pile of junk. And I just don't like having that kind of hanging behind me, and it just felt weird. So I'm just not going to do that ever again. I don't owe these guys anything, and I don't want to owe them anything. So yeah, I'm sorry I even did that. I yeah, they've been kind of a pain to work with anyway, and I do not want that hanging over me. Anyway, I digress. Let's talk about this. Fantom Fomo, it did really well. I mean, it got up to over 5 million staked, um, and it shot up really quick, really fast. And you have to wonder about that. If you get to one of these DApps, and it's over like 1 million staked or something, go ahead and look in the back and find out what's going on. Review transactions, review pages of transactions if you have to. If you're already hours late into these things, another 2 minutes of just looking at transactions is probably not going to hurt you. If anything, it'll help you make an informed decision. So what happened to this? The first 3 hours of this thing going live, they had some giant whales get into this, and then so after 14 days, they all dumped into this one 3 hours in, and then 14 days and 3 hours later, they just bailed and just crashed the balance to nothing. So everybody holding past those 3 hours, in this one, especially the 21 days and 28 days, those ones didn't even have a chance. Or they're just, it's gone. There's no balance anymore. And that's how these things work. I get a lot of comments, hey, the rug pulled, or it's a scam, blah, blah, blah. Guys, it's a Ponzi scheme. That's what it is. If you were late to the game, later than all the bigger ones that got in before you, and they had enough of a deposit in there that could drain the balance, they drain the balance. That's how they work. There is controversy about who knows what and when. Sometimes you see people jump into these and they can get into the contract early. I've done a video about that, one DApp that allowed that. There's all those things you need to consider, but the key thing is you need to do the research on these. And the more research you do, and if you can find out what to look for in these things, the better chance it is that you're going to, make a good informed decision. So I just want to talk about that. So let's talk about Fantom Fomo. Let's look at it. Let's pretend we're jumping into this thing for the first time. Let's ignore right now this got zero balance. What would I look for? The first thing I would do, obviously, it's got an audit. I would click that. It would go to Hayes. Hayes, the credibility is kind of crap anyway. But what that really did prove is that they spent a few grand to get an audit. That's kind of they do look for backdoors. They look for scams and things like that, so they can't just drain the contract balance. But it also shows that they're willing to put some money up front to prove that they did an audit. And the people that are doing scams, they're usually not willing to put up that upfront capital to do so. But some do. It's not a guarantee, but it's just one more little step that we can take to see that these guys did something to prove that they're somewhat legit. You can also go into a Telegram group and just check to see what's going on. If you want to be in this thing for 14 days and you want to chat with other people that are getting into it, you can. Some groups are better than others, but having that community around it that people are just kind of passionate about it, you don't have to be, and I don't encourage you to be. But if they've got a passionate group behind them and it's just about to launch, that's a really good thing. That means there's going to be, it's going to get a lot of traction. A lot of people are going to keep putting stuff into it for days after. And if it's just launching, then that's great. The other thing is the contract. The contract is like the key, because that's what this whole thing is. This whole front end of the site is just a wrapper. It doesn't there's not a lot of functionality here. When you hit stake or withdraw or anything on this thing, it's doing the things in the contract, because that thing is where all the balance is held, where all the functionality exists. So that's very key. And also we can get a lot of information. So let's look at this contract. You know, obviously we went to 0, but if I were to begin looking at a contract, what I would do is click the full list, and I would go to the last page. This shows me, this is when this contract began. You know, it started 20 days, but they had like a timer, so it actually started 16 days, 9 hours ago. So I know exactly how old this thing is. This thing launched right here, and I can see the very first transaction, this 5 Fantom, was put in it 16 days, 9 hours ago. I know exactly how old this thing is. Now what I can do is I can look, like somebody keeps putting in 5 Fantom over and over and over. All these people putting in 5 Fantom, it's probably the minimum. It looks like it's all coming from different addresses. It's probably the minimum, so that's probably a lot of influencers just putting in the minimum to get their referrals. I can look at that, and then let's go one more page back. Okay, let's go to the bottom of this. So, you know, 16, 9 hours ago, there's a 600 that's getting pretty big. You know, it's not huge. 191. There's a 3,300. Yeah, that's getting bigger. 1,000. You know, nothing too concerning yet. So, you know, if I was in here in the first 5 minutes, I'd be in this group, and I'd be just fine. If I put in for that 14 days. Let's go back another page. Okay, we're getting, you know, several in the thousands. There's 1,000. There's a 50,000. That's like, okay, there's a whale. They're putting into this thing, and I can click on this thing, and I can look at I can click on log. I can scroll down here, and they put into plan 3, which is actually the 4th plan because it starts an index of 0. So this guy, this whale, put in on plan 4, which is the 14-day locked plan. So I can see one whale. If I got in before this guy, I'm golden. You know, if I was in there probably the first 5 minutes, I'm before this guy, I'm good, because he's gonna be fine too. You know, these guys that are putting 50 grand in, they're not dumb. They're just not throwing this stuff away. They know to get in early. So then we got another 10,131. We can look at that one. Let's check the logs. Same plan. They're doing the same thing. Yeah, there's another 5,000. Let's go back one more page. This is where it gets really interesting, guys. There's somebody that keeps putting in 900. 900, 900, 900. All these 900s, they add up to thousands. Like literally, you know, each one of these, it just keeps going. There's almost 3 grand. Yeah, just 900 over and over and over again. You want to be before that guy for sure. Let's scroll down. There's another 10,000. There's another 50,000. And if you look, yep, plan 3 again. So they're all doing the same thing. So that's key there. So let's look at this. Let's look at this second whale. It was March 8th, 306. Let's go to the last one again. Let's see when the first one was. So March 8th, 241. So you had 25, 30, you know, almost 35, 40 minutes before that whale got in there. Actually about 25 minutes. So if you knew when this thing was launching and you got in the first few minutes, you beat all those whales in here. And you know, as long as you were there exactly on time on the end of the 14-day, you took yours out, you beat the whales. So that's key, guys. You got to watch this. You got to, you know, if you know it's one of these bigger ones that's going to get a little bit of traction, you know, it's worth putting something into as soon as it launches. I'm not saying it just to follow my links. You guys can remove my referrals or whatever, but that's how you beat the whales, is you get in as early as possible before all these transactions happen. So you can see exactly what happened to FOMO. I mean, you saw all those transactions, and we can even keep going back a little further. Let's see. Yeah, all these 900s, 900. I mean, that is tons. Somebody just laid into this thing with so many different wallets. It just keeps going and going and going. There's that one that we already looked at. Yeah, 41,000, 64,000. You know, you can see why this thing crashed so fast in those, you know, and all this one 900. Like I don't know. That's really suspicious when you see something like that. There's a 37,000. And guys, this is in the first hour. 74,000, 22,000, 14, 90,000 right there. And if you were in the first 20 minutes, you beat all these guys. But if you were an hour late, you didn't. And, you know, that was pushing on this one. But you can see that. I mean, 10,000, 70,000. And these are all that first hour. But what you want to be in this group. All these fives and stuff. You know, you want to be on that page, or you want to be on the second page. That's where you want to be. You don't want to be 5 or 6 pages in after all those whales. So that being said, there's this new one that just launched, and you want to use this as an example. It's just bizarre. These are one of those ones that when they launched, they just like launched. They didn't like have a timer. They didn't share a lot of information. They just launched, and it just didn't do much. Obviously, because they didn't like really hype it at all. All of a sudden it just shows up on Hayes Crypto and this thing's going. You know, I wake up in the morning, it's already 10 hours old, because I haven't been watching Hayes Crypto. I've been doing other things. And I look at the contract. Let's go ahead and look at all the 98 transactions it has. Let's go to the last page here. You know, it launches and invests, and there's a deposit. There's another one an hour later. This is weird. And then like 8 days later, there's more. You know, it's not gaining tons. Yeah, and this is all just earlier today. And so I would look at this and be like, okay, what's going on? What's happened in the last 10 hours? Is this something I want to get on? You know, I don't see any huge ones yet, but it's okay. You know, maybe this is still okay. You know, 8 hours in, we're okay. Let's go back a page. Okay, now we're in, you know, now we've got a 14,000. We've got a 5, a 10,000. You know, here's a 20,000, that's 60 grand right there that somebody put in. You know, a 5, a 7. I mean, there's some big deposits in there. Myself, I would look at that and be like, nope, you know, that's 60 grand. I'm not going to risk that. There's some of these other ones, 10. You know, I'm not a whale. I'm not like throwing in, you know, 10, 20 grand into these things. I'm putting in like hundreds. I mean, honestly, I'm not that big of a, I mean, yeah, I might put in a few thousand maybe if I really feel it's like really awesome. But I diversify. This is not my only investment. I'm not going to plop in, you know, all my crypto investment into an ROI DApp. That's one thing that be careful of. So yeah, I mean, this one, you know, it's, I don't know. All I know is that guy that put in 20 grand or 60 grand here, it's going to be an interesting ride if this thing just doesn't actually get more investment. He's going to be sweating some bullets. But yeah, we can look in here and see what he did. Oh, this doesn't have, oh, this is plan 0, so that's an unlocked plan on the first one. The second one, let's look and see what they did. Yeah, again, the unlock plan. So he's going to be draining this contract balance. Yeah, he'll just be bleeding this thing out. Yeah, he put in plan 0 on all of these. So yeah, he's going to be making, 10% on that, and he's going to be just bringing that balance down day after day after day. Especially, he's 45% of, well, that's the staked. That one guy is, let's pull up the balance or the contract. Sorry guys, this is a lot of just kind of looking around. I just want to show this to you. The balance is 157,000. He is almost half that. He's like 40% of this balance, and he's going to be withdrawing daily to get his initial out, and then after that, it's going to be bringing this down. So, yeah, just be careful of these guys. Look in the contract, check them out, see what's going on. If it's one of these bigger DApps, FOMO or Staker or Stake or whatever. There's another one coming out tomorrow, Fantom Stake, and their balances usually go over 1 million pretty quickly. So, those, watch the timer, check out when it's actually going to launch, schedule a time if you're going to invest in it, wait for that thing to hit 0. Obviously before it gets its launches, make sure there's no other investment going in, people aren't cheating. But then when it hits 0, make sure you're on that first couple pages before the whales jump in there and kind of wreck things. Even the YouTube guys, they want to make videos of them putting money into these things, and they're not going to sit there and chat away, if they were first in line. They're an hour or two into these things most of the times. So, this isn't fail proof. I'm not saying this is what you should do. I'm saying this is a strategy that you can use to kind of play these things. Obviously the more people that play it this way, it's going to be harder and harder to get in the front, but you want to beat those big guys, because that's the most important thing. It'd be great if there was enough of us, smaller guys that we could, dump into these things so that when the whales hit, they had a rough time after that 14 days. I think that's the goal. It should be anyway. Anyway, guys, yeah, I'm not trying to rip on any of the whales that are out there, especially, if you're my subscriber. I'm not saying, we're trying to take you down, but, whales and these things really, really crash things at the end. And they can take a lot of people's money out of these things. So just try to play these things smart, play them, as safe as possible for how risky they are. Get in early, get out early. And after you hit that 14 days, never think, oh, that worked great, I'm going to dump it back into it. Don't, you don't owe these things anything. Even reinvesting, half of 700%, you're not sustaining the balance. There's a lot of people that are like, hey, do 60-40 or whatever, reinvest, blah, blah, blah. Guys, anything, once you get your initial deposit out, you're bleeding the system. It doesn't matter, unless you reinvest everything and you keep your initial in there, you're bleeding the system. It's just the fact of how these things work. Anyway, guys, enough rambling for me. This is definitely not financial advice. I'm not saying this is how you should do this. I'm just trying to provide information for you guys so you can see what's going on. You can see how these things are played out, how that balance can just get annihilated quickly with all of those large investments. So just be careful of that. Be careful of how these things, how you're playing these things. I never want to see my subscribers say, hey, I got totally wrecked on that thing, or I got in 5 days and late and, I lost, 2,000 Matic or whatever. I don't want ever to hear of that happening, because just a little bit of a thought beforehand, a little bit of research beforehand can save you a lot of money, and it can actually make you quite a bit too. I'm not here to shill these things. You can invest in the ROI dApps if you want. If not, that's fine by me. But I'm just trying to provide the information you need to make good decisions. Anyway, again, not financial advice. Make your own decisions. Do your own research. These finances are yours and yours alone, so make your own decisions. I'm not going to reach through the computer and make you click a link and deposit from your wallet into a dApp. I'm not going to do that, and I'm not going to say I encourage that or anything. These are just a huge risk. Anyway, guys, like the video if you like it, subscribe if you want to subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.